You know, when you start drinking, your accent comes in.
New York comes
thick.
and I haven't drank that much. It's only like 3 shot glasses, and it's because I'm hanging out and happy. That doesn't happen very often. Remember, I am an insurance agent.
Welcome to Business Over Beer, where entrepreneurs, small business owners, and people passionate about what they do bring us their favorite stories and their favorite beer. Hosted by Ben Surratt and Jonathan Kaler, it's time to get down to business and drink some beer.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the best podcast in the Pacific Northwest, the Bob Podcast, Business Over Beer. I am your co-host, Ben Surratt. Alongside me, as always, is Jonathan Kaler. Hello, Jonathan.
What up, man? How we doing today? Excited to be here. Excited to drink some beer.
I'm excited. We have great guests. We have one guest who has stayed, who has come back because he just
Likes beer.
likes beer.
Well, and depending on when this airs, this might be the prequel.
This might be the
Might be the
prequel.
prequel to his episode because these episodes are after.
That's a
this.
good point.
So we'll have to see how that goes.
So we have Jason Knopp,
The gift that keeps giving.
kind of like, yeah. And our special guest, our new guest, Mr. Lucas Cole.
Hey, buddies.
How are you?
Doing well. Excited to be here.
Do you know about the Bob Podcast?
Only what you've told me.
What have I told you?
Sit there, talk about business, drink some beer, have a good time.
There you go. Wow, that was pretty easy.
You don't make me here, man.
All right, well,
there's the new tagline.
all
I
right.
think we're done.
There you
Good
go.
episode, everybody. Oh wait, except we didn't drink any beer yet.
No.
Oh, okay, we gotta do that.
So
So
that's
let's
important.
open the beer.
So normally we have the guest bring the beer.
Lucas decided that he didn't want to do that.
So he designated the beer selection to the friend of the show, Mr. Knopp. So, Jason,
Yes, sir.
would you care to tell us what you brought for us today?
So I brought a vintage Stung fermented sparkling mead.
Ooh.
Purchased about 3 years ago.
Aged to perfection.
Aged to perfection.
Oh, jeez.
We hope.
So for those of us who are not familiar with mead, I have never drank mead before. Can you tell us the difference between mead and beer?
Yeah, it's made from honey. It's fermented honey. And this particular one, I don't believe they're still in business. However, they were made from the Be Local brand of honey from Portland.
Oh, wow.
So they used all Be Local to make their mead. And that is about all I recall about this particular.
I have had mead.
What do you think of mead as a diehard beer drinker?
It's different. I had one at Stone Brewery. Stone made a really good one. It was about 13% though.
Where is that?
Oh, in Stone, in San Diego.
Cool.
Have you had mead?
No, I have not.
Well, you are a diabetic though.
Yeah, well, it's okay. Everything in moderation, right?
There you go.
Unless you ask my wife, in which case,
They tend to take on the flavor of where the bee's honey was, where the bee's honey comes from. So if there's a particular batch of honey that
That
was
looks
around roses
really-
or blackberries, it might have that particular.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well,
And
it's
I
cool.
believe they brewed it that way as well originally.
Well, and it's cool because it's sparkling mead, and it really does have the effervescence of like a sparkling wine or a sparkling
does.
cider.
Yeah. That's what it reminds me of, a cider, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Little cloudy in color. You can kind of see the honeyish hue, but interesting.
All right.
Okay.
Cheers, mates.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Careful over the computer.
When we get,
Says the IT guy.
says the IT guy.
Uncle K approves.
What do you taste, Ben?
It's not as sweet as I thought it was going to be.
I bet 3 years ago it was a lot sweeter. It's really mellow. You can almost taste that it's mellowed out. I mean, it's really even keeled. It's easy drinking. I mean, it's almost like a Kolsch. It's got
Very much, yes.
It's got that mouthfeel of a Kolsch.
Yeah.
This would be like ice cold
Yeah.
on a hot day.
Yeah.
This would be really good. What do you think, Lucas? All right.
Yeah, no, it was good. I think it'd be interesting to see what it was like 3 years ago and what the difference
Yeah.
is. No, but what the difference was then versus now. I'm actually surprised it still does taste as good as it does.
For real.
Never having had it before.
Well, next week we're bringing on the inventor of the time machine, and so maybe we can.
That would be cool.
We'll
Doc Brown.
The flux capacitor.
Yeah. So, Lucas,
Yes, sir.
there are two professions that I think are boring as hell. One, an accountant.
Yep. Numbers.
And the second, I'm sorry to say, insurance. But, however, I wanted you on the show because you are actually like an insurance guru guy. And the first time we ever like sat down and talked, we were at Starbucks. Mm-hmm. And I was legitimately enthralled in what you were doing and saying.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because my background wasn't always in insurance. You know, I grew up around small businesses with my dad. I mean, he started managing a farm, ran an excavation company, went on to do some land development. And I think that contributes to the jack of all trades, master of none mentality that I've had growing up, is I've always been interested in learning things. And I got into insurance after a 10-year career as a restaurant manager.
Wow.
You think about putting out fires constantly and being on the move. I think that all plays well into being the agent that I am. And when you put 14 years of claims on top of the 10 years of restaurant and the upbringing that I had, it gives a different perspective than to somebody that just kind of passed a test and went to sell the product.
Yeah.
You know, I've been there when, you know, I was in Alabama when the tornadoes went through Birmingham, I think in 11.
Jeez.
And people with nothing to wear but the shirt on their back, you know? So it gives you a different perspective when you go to sell somebody a product. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that tries to back somebody into a corner to make a deal, to make a dollar. They need to get the right protection for them and their family, whether it's from me or one of my friends down the road. That's what's important to me. And having been there at the worst possible times in people's lives and then being out and seeing that the people that sold the product may not completely understand what they were selling, kind of like they should, it does make it a different, I think, a different way to sell insurance. It's a different take that I have on it. I just don't think of it as a commodity to make money.
See what I'm talking about? Yeah. Like, it was 45 minutes of this. I'm just like sitting here listening to you because it's real. You're talking about real life situations that you've already experienced.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a couple of weeks ago. I did a Facebook Live on it, but my kid, you know, he's 15. He drives better than I do. I'm not kidding. I mean, they called me Crash when I was in high school, right? Because I bounced off of everything. Started with the tractor, moved right into the car. So this kid, he's got it dialed, right? He buys his own car. All right, well, Dad's going to take it, get the tags put on it, do a couple things to it. The day I'm doing that, he gets in a wreck, takes a left turn, and totals my car.
Oh, no.
Everybody's okay. I didn't like the car anyway, not a big deal, right?
Right.
But he went through the mandatory driving school. They taught him everything they need to know. He spent time in the car with us. We get it. What's the one thing they don't teach you anything about when you're learning to drive a car? What in the hell you do when you get into an accident or you get pulled over?
Yeah.
Like, two of the most necessary things, especially with the environment that the police are facing these days. It's like, okay, parents, you know what? It's your responsibility because nobody else is doing it. I mean, he had no idea. He was scared. He was in an accident with a woman. I mean, she was old enough to be my grandmother. She'd had never been in an accident. I don't know how that happened. She must not drive enough.
Wow.
But you think about that, right? What are the odds that two people, such a difference in age, get into their first accident together? So I felt that it was important to spread that information. And unfortunately, this isn't something that happens infrequently. You know, we're faced with different situations. I mean, when you really look at it, what are we doing? We're solving people's problems in hopes that they never happen. That's a hard thing to do. So we sell a promise.
Yeah.
That if it hits the fan, we're going to be there to cover it for you, take care of you. You want somebody that's actually going to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
You know, not an 800 number or some robot that's getting paid by the hour to do that.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to me. You know, I've seen how it affects people's lives, and it can go really well or it can go really bad. You know, and when the tagline for the company I work for is that they know a thing or two because they've seen a thing or two. I'm actually the living embodiment of that, and I don't think there's too many of them that are, you know. It's kind of the way I was brought up and the professional experiences that I had are what have made me who I am today, you know. And I just really want to share that with the people that I try and help on a day-to-day basis, you know.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
obviously,
serious.
I can sit here and talk about myself forever, but, you know.
But man, like I said, you have passion for what you do for the right reasons, and that is, yeah, we all know that everybody needs insurance. We all know that.
Right.
Just like everybody needs to have a CP, or if you're a business owner at least, you need a CPA to do your numbers and do your taxes.
Right.
But you actually have a different mentality. Like, I don't want to sell you something you don't need.
Right. Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
But I want to sell you the right thing.
Right, and I've had that experience, you know, some businesses that don't, you know, when they're first starting, they may not need general liability insurance.
That's what I'm talking
you know?
about. Yeah.
I mean, I'm more about developing lifelong relationships with people, and you don't do that by just pushing them in a corner and making $1, you know, or making a dime to spite the dollar you can make down the road. And it's just kind of the way I was brought up, you know. If you find a gate when you're going into the barn, if the gate's closed, make sure it's closed behind you. Well, you guys laugh.
Yeah.
Well, what
That's
is
so
that?
right on.
Well,
Yeah.
Jason knows what I'm talking
I get
about. Jason and me are good friends. What is that?
Well, if you
Common.
go in, you want to make sure that.
But what is
something-
it? You find it closed, you leave it closed. You find it open, you leave it open. For a farmer, that's common.
Sense, yeah.
Exactly. And it's not something that we have these days.
No.
It's hard with the kids. I mean, I've got two of them. I got a 16-year-old and 10-year-old, and they got their face buried in the computer screen or the iPhone, and they're not out. They're experiencing the world in a much different way than we did growing up. And being able to apply that situation to business is what lets me get out of bed and do this every day. I mean, let's face it. This might even be more boring than accounting. I mean, I'd rather sit, drink beer, and BS with you guys and go home and play with my wife and kids. You know, who wants to sit there and, yeah, we cold call because that's one of the ways we get business. But it's, you know, there's a mixture of that. You're cold calling, you're Facebook marketing, you're doing, I mean, you could sit there and beat the drum all day, 50 hours a week if you wanted to. It's not that exciting. So I had to find my real reason why, you know. And then seeing my kids come up through school and seeing some of the kids that needed opportunities, you know, especially in the area that my office is in the St. John section of Portland. You know, some of those kids really don't have the opportunities that we had growing up. They just don't exist anymore. You know, they're stripping the art programs out of schools.
Yeah.
They're taking out this, that, and the other thing. So I want to run my business in such a way that hopefully it helps, you know, the community I live in and the community that I work in and be able to give back. Now, of course, you know, we've done a lot of that in the 4 years that I've been an agent. But to continue to do that, what do you got to do? You got to sell insurance. So that's what we do. We sell insurance to try to help people and give more opportunity to the communities that we live in and work in.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's legit.
I mean, it's a good idea. Now we got to just keep selling insurance.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Would you like more mead?
give me another shot of that. It's not bad.
It isn't.
It's pretty smooth, yeah.
We also have Angie's mystery beer.
That actually scares me, by the way.
Yeah, it does me. I still have not seen it. I have no idea.
We don't know what she's I've had enough.
It's a good thing we don't have the
I refilled it like
simulcast.
3 times.
But we're drinking out of miniature glasses.
That's right.
Yeah.
I won't tell the world that I'm drinking out of the Vegan Beer and Food Festival glass. I'm drinking
3 shots at a time.
a product of bees. So
I had to,
sorry, vegan community. This was the biggest glass in the box. So.
Cheers.
There you go. I love that you're doing Facebook Live stuff.
Dude,
Check
that's
them out
awesome.
On Facebook, the modern marketing. That's cool stuff.
I'm on Facebook all the time chasing leads and this and that and everything else for business. And you get these keyboard cowboys.
Oh, man.
I hate that. It's
Yeah.
like, I won't say anything that I wouldn't say in front of anybody else. Like, if I talk crap about you to my buddy, yeah, I'll say it to you too, because what are you going to do? I mean, having that kid that's as big as I am, he's a black belt in martial arts, but I've always had to tell him, like, there's always somebody bigger and badder.
Yeah, always.
So whatever you do, you just make sure whatever comes out of your mouth, you can either back it up or believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Or both, hopefully.
Or both. Or both.
You know, I mean...
And be humble. Stay humble,
Yeah.
man.
I mean-
That'll eliminate all that stuff. Stay humble.
It's just, sometimes it's hard to do.
It is difficult to,
especially as a teenager.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
But yeah, I think he got the good genes from his mama because he's got it pretty well dialed in. But it's kind of interesting watching him grow up and turn into what you always thought you could have been. But for not turns and
Yeah, but that's a good thing.
tribulations. I mean, that's what you
says
want,
something about
right?
you. You know?
Well,
Yeah, that's what you want, though, right?
It is. Yeah, you just hope. I mean, what do we pay for? We always pay for what we thought we should have done and didn't do.
Yeah.
I mean, you do that in business, you do that in life. It kind of is. But, well, it's kind of like I got a bunch of buddies that still work in claims. Like, dude, you guys can sell insurance. Why don't you go do this? Oh, I don't know if I could ever sell anything. Every claim I ever had was a sale. You had to sell them on the company. You had to sell them on. I would sell them on the contractor I brought to the job, but I had to believe in it to tell him to do it. Otherwise, you know whose butt was on the line? Mine.
Yeah.
Every day I go home, I'm selling something to somebody. Whether it's my 10-year-old to brush his teeth or my 16-year-old to go do this for his mom or mow the lawn, you're selling them on something.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of it's interesting to me how people can't see that transition in different parts of life and how it all kind of really funnels into the same thing. I mean, we put limiters on ourselves that just don't need to exist, you know? I mean, no, I'll never be good at that. Well, no, you're not, because you never tried.
Well, people, I mean, especially in sales. I mean, I'm in sales, and people just have this idea of used car salesman, right, or telemarketing salesman. What they don't understand, they don't understand that there are so many facets of being a salesperson, right? I mean, there's the cold calling. There's the grinding out the phones, and that part is hard, and that's what most people I could never do that. But the relationship side, the helping people, the coming up with options, the negotiation with vendors and with customers and all that stuff. Most people would be really good at that part.
But to keep that pipeline full, you got to do a little bit of everything and not be afraid to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, my first work study job in college, which, all honesty, I got my first degree in Budweiser. University of Missouri, go Tigers. It was telemarketing. No.
Oh, they're huge
I
there.
didn't even show up.
They're huge.
And now what am I doing? Telling other people how to do the phone thing. And
When I lived in Springfield, Missouri, I was going to do telemarketing. I'm doing the interview. It's an interview, and I get a tour of the place, and they're on the phone, blah, blah, blah. We exit the phone area, and the next thing, he has a plastic cup, in the bathroom. He goes, before we go any further, we're going to find out if we go any further. I'm like, what kind of people are being hired here?
It's amazing the different barriers to entry that the companies put. Like to work farmers claims, you had to have a college degree. And some of the people they hired to do that, my 12-year-old, and I'm not shitting you, by the time he was 12, he could do that job better than most of the people they were hiring. I mean, I'd pick them up so I get done with my 2 claims when I was doing property as fast as I could, and I'd go pick them up from school and be like, here, hold the laptop. If anybody says anything, we'll figure it out, you know? And the kid learned more about using computers and what to do just from that whole experience, you know? I mean, it's always been about them first, and I leveraged that as long as I could until I couldn't take it anymore.
So, Lucas, talk a little bit about the transition from going from restaurant management into insurance. What made you want to break out on your own and become an entrepreneur?
Well, I had 14 years in claims after I was a restaurant manager. And I bounced. I did every kind of personal lines claim there is to do. And the only way you get to do that is to continue educating yourself on the different facets of the products. You know, you have to learn to negotiate with body shops, chiropractors, appointment setters, billers, lawyers. You know, back then they didn't have specialized rep that dealt with the lawyers. I got kind of handed a lot of different things. And then I got tired of working for people that knew less than I did about the job, honestly. I had been a supervisor for a short period of time. The company went through restructuring, so I chose to take a job back in the field, and I was good at it, you know, but I've got 2 kids at the time, and I look at myself and I go, yeah, I don't want to climb on roofs when I'm 50 years old. You know, I mean, I was about 40. I said, well, what's next? All the experience I've got to this point, well, I guess insurance agent sounds good. You know, so I was still working full-time doing claims, and I went and studied for my tests. So you got to do property casualty, life and health, and then for farmers, they want you to pass your Series 6 and 63. I passed all of them. Kind of put a lot of pressure on myself with the experience that I have in work. I'm like, shit, if I fail these, what are they going to think of me? Well, I passed them all the first time through, thankfully. Was able to kind of start looking at selling insurance before I actually became a full-time agent. Then it just happened that it worked out that I took over an existing agency in Portland that didn't have a home at the time, as it were. So we kind of pinched and kicked and shook the bushes till we found an office space that worked for us. And we found our home in St. John's. You know, I'd looked at that space online a couple of different times, and the guy's hard to get a hold of. Tried to get a space in kind of the MLK district there, same side of the town, and that deal didn't work out. So this guy that had the office in St. John's, I called him, emailed him, called him, texted him, called him, had the real estate guy that was helping me, call him, text him, had the guy at Farmers that was working with me, call him, text him. Finally, he called one of us back and was like, yeah, I'm here, okay. And we got the office, you know. It worked out really good because at the time there was a Starbucks underneath us. It's since closed up and went away, but it kind of had a community feeling, you know, of what I grew up with. I grew up in a town of 8,000 people 90 miles north of New York City. So not hokey, but, you know, I still grew up on a beef farm there, so everybody knew everybody. If I did something wrong, everybody knew about it. Well, St. John's is still kind of that way. You know, everybody knows everybody, and if you take care of one person, you're going to take care of everybody. We were well received there, and it just, you know, it was a good place to be, and that is what parked us there, you know, and they really kind of understand the type of business I'm trying to do, and their message that the groups there are trying to send out, like they've got the, St. John's Center for Opportunity and the Boosters Club. They're all pretty much on the same mission, even though they're different organizations, and it, luckily for me, because I didn't plan it, but it worked well with the kind of agency I want to run, you know. But just, I think my continued learning and always wanting to know more, always wanting to do better than the next guy is really what led me to be a successful agent.
Wow, man.
I hope that answers your question. You know.
Well, I got about halfway through, and I said, wait a minute, what did he ask? Okay.
Well, I have one or two follow-ups, if you don't mind. No, one of the things that struck me, and I'm just asking because I don't know, with regard to your business. So you said that there was an agency that needed a home. So talk a little bit about about that. What does that mean, and how did you get started into that part of it?
It's going to be a little bit technical, just because that's the nature of the beast.
Sure.
So what I am right now is considered a semi-captive agent. That being, I represent farmers insurance as a whole. If they don't offer or they decline a product offering to a customer, I can go somewhere else and get it. Then you have other companies like State Farm, for instance. They can only offer what State Farm offers. That's it. End of story. Then you have independent agents that can sell for brokers that they're appointed with. Typically, Safeco, Travelers, things like that.
Gotcha.
A lot of times what happens is somebody will get out of the business. So they'll quit farmers. They'll decide they don't want to be an agent anymore. They'll move states and have to sell the agency. They can either sell that to someone on the outside or sell it back to the company. So this agency that didn't have a home was being serviced by the district office in Portland, and I was able to come in, take it over, and alleviate them of that need to service the customers at that point, and kind of take it out and brand it as my own and continue to build that book of business.
So from a cost perspective, as far as acquiring that business, was that a cost-effective way to do it? It was, I mean, from a, trying to start your own business, did that make it a little bit easier, or did that make it a little bit harder? Because now you're almost franchised, right? So you've got this, maybe a corporate overhead there that's leaning on you.
So if you think about it this way, I had a career that I was in for 14 years. So as anyone can understand, as you get along in that path, if you're successful, you're kind of at the top of the wage scale as you get that far in. So walking away from that kind of job without residual income, I'm pretty sure I would have ended up divorced, or at least, in the she shed in the backyard.
Which is insured, as we all know.
Yeah, it is.
If it burns down.
Yeah, she shed's burning down. But so, it provided me that security. So I had a little bit of income coming in while I was trying to figure out how to build the book and go. Because you pass the tests to be an insurance agent, they don't teach you lick one about business or running a business.
Sure.
Thankfully, with my restaurant experience and life experience, I knew a little bit more than most. And, we've been pretty successful right out of the gate. But yeah, having that residual income is really what made me be like, okay, this is going to be all right. Now, if you ask me 4 years down the road, well, maybe I should have just went straight independent, because you are right. There are limitations being franchised as we called it. But I've been able to leverage the strengths of the products that we sell, as well as the ability to be an agent for surplus lines, which is the stuff that's outside of farmers, to be successful at it. So, it's kind of like anything. You sell what sells. You don't focus on what may or may not be competitive or may not bring enough premium in the door to keep the lights on. And if you hear people talk about the driverless cars and things like that, and what's that going to do to the insurance business? If people are smart, it's not going to do much to the insurance business, because I can sell a lot of different products other than auto. And we've been really good as an agency, being me and the people that work with me, on focusing on the products that bring in the better return that let us help the customers that we still service.
So I'm going to open the Angie's Mystery Beer.
Perfect.
But I'm going to ask you, while I'm doing that, I'll have you actually open it. So Angie's Mystery Beer, Lucas, you want to open it? But I'm going to ask you, what's the biggest misnomer about insurance? And I know what, let's see what this is.
It looks like we've got Walking Man Brewing, Homo Erectus,
Oh my!
out of Stevenson, Washington.
It's the Imperial.
Well, for this group, the Homo erectus, it was a little bit of a misnomer, as you were saying.
Oh boy!
Yeah, gotta love your significant other. Bud.
Thank you, Angie.
That's
once again.
awesome.
Thank you,
Well
Angie.
done.
Well, we're gonna take a sip of the Homo erectus Imperial IPA. I don't even want to know what the ABV on this is.
Well, Ben,
I don't want to know.
I'm not going to tell you the ABV, but I'm going to tell you it's brewed in celebration of being erect for 2 million years.
Here, boys.
And Lucas, you have the best
Yep,
glass.
I got the best shot glass to go for that.
Oh,
That is very imperial.
wow.
That is a big
That's
big
heavy.
beer.
It's
You knock,
heavy.
you knock
Heavy.
that down, you'll feel it tomorrow.
Yes, that is heavy.
heavy, malty.
Delicious.
You
I
can,
mean, really, really good.
you can almost chew it.
Yeah.
The bitterness. Wait for that bitterness.
that what that
and then
was?
The bitterness.
I
Yeah.
just thought it was a chip from earlier.
You're talking to a guy who prefers Coors Light over most everything. My wife compares that to drinking water, which I'm fine with. You know.
What's the biggest misnomer about insurance and from the outside?
Yeah, no, it's
like
good.
From besides the boring part,
Yep.
which you blew that out of the water. It's not boring at all. But what other things, like you talk about other products that you can offer? We sell manufactured homes,
Right.
and when we were talking, you blew me away about some of the stuff that you're able to do for manufactured homes.
Right.
So what are other things like that you come up with that people don't even think about when it comes to insurance?
So when somebody calls my office, my guys are instructed to say, if they ask, can you insure that? Say yes. Doesn't matter what it is. A lot of people in my position like to keep it between the lines, so they only sell what farmers likes, because doing something other than that can be problematic. So you find that a lot with even some independent agents. They'll turn away risks that they don't necessarily isn't in their wheelhouse.
For
example, we did a tour bus that was remodeled. It was gutted. They took everything out of it. They put 3 makeup stations in it. They drive it around to different productions here in Portland to do the makeup on set. No, I can't find insurance for that. I'll find you a quote. Because, what's the one thing that they may not like when I find them a quote? The price.
The price, yeah.
But we'll get you insurance. And I mean, they've been a customer of mine for 2 years.
Wow, man.
I had another guy. Now, the other example, talking about price, he was making drones out of his house back before they were super popular. He was making about $50,000 a year. When we got him a quote, it was about 1/5 of his revenue, because the risk wasn't completely understood at that time as it is now. I think now there's endorsements you can get that'll add drone coverage to your standard business policy. But we still got a quote for it. And that's kind of the important thing, is we want to provide people with the coverage that they need, so they can keep doing what they want to do. I mean, it's got to provide the coverage they need and the right coverage, and we like to solve those pain points for people. You come to me with a problem, my goal is to solve it. Pretty straightforward.
I love that, dude. I love that.
Ben,
Yes.
time for the final question.
All right, final question, Lucas. If you had a ticket to anywhere in the world, but you had to leave tomorrow, where would it be? And why?
But, well, it could be depending on where the Yankees are, but if I'm picking a country,
Okay.
we're going to Australia, because I've never been there.
Okay.
Never actually been off the continental I've been to Canada, that's about it. Never
Wow.
anywhere else. And, I mean, I guess when you grew up with the Crocodile Dundee movies, that always seems like a nice place I'd like to visit. That's all.
not a knife.
You're gonna need a
Exactly.
knife.
This is a knife. Exactly.
I think they have the most amount of poisonous
Yes.
animals.
Well, and it was based as a prison colony is where it started, so I'll probably fit in, no problem.
And Australia is entirely people with criminals. Criminals are used to having people not trust them.
That
You
was a
that's
joke.
what I mean.
Dude, you are
Would you like to
ridiculous.
buy some insurance?
I actually, so this is another story I know, but at the swap meet in Portland, we do that booth every year.
Yeah.
I met an insurance agent from Australia.
No
Of all
way.
the freaking places in the world. Yeah, it was hilarious.
So you got a place to stay.
Yeah, in theory, yeah, I'm sure.
He'll rob you while you sleep. That's what insurance
Well,
agents do, right?
Yeah,
Do you sell trip insurance? No, forget
no,
it.
you got to buy that online. I can find it for you.
We're going to end it right there. That is awesome.
If people want to find you,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
what's the best place to get you?
You think if I was selling stuff, I'd know to say that. LucasCole.com. You can find all the information about me. It's pretty simple. LUCAS, my last name, COLE.com.
Thanks for hanging out, man.
Thank you guys for having me.
Knopp, where can they find you?
They can find me at knoppconsulting.com, KNOPP consulting.com.
And we're not going to tell anybody what you do because they have to listen to the other podcast.
There you go.
Out what you do. There you go. And where can they find us, Jonathan? Where are we at?
bizoverbeer.com.
Boom.
Come grab us. If you have show ideas or have input and feedback, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. We're going to have a fantastic summer, boys. It's going to be great. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.
Business Over Beer reminds you to always drink responsibly. Our theme song is Idiocracy by Christian Leo. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Business Over Beer.